So I was looking for a good video to just answer the question, what is change management? And I didn't really find too many, so I thought I would create one myself. Hi, I'm Victoria. I make videos decoding the unconscious life of work. So if you want a real answer instead of an easy one, you're in the right place. So let's work through it together. The word change management sounds super corporate and dry, but it's actually about one of the most human things there is out there, especially in organizational development. Change management is basically when an organization decides that it needs to adapt to a bigger change in the world that's triggered by technology upgrades or policy changes or cultural shifts. So something has happened that is probably going to affect at least a third of the organization and requires many people at different levels to coordinate on a new way of working together. So really, this is impacting the organizational strategy or the business model, and it requires a more structured approach in order to shift human behavior from one state to another. That's really what change management is. Plenty of OCM frameworks exist, Cotter's 8 steps, ProSide's ADKAR model, good old Kurt Lewin and his unfreeze freeze model. There's plenty, right? But there are 3 key things that those frameworks neglect that I think actually encourage sustainable change. So I want to share those with you. The first key thing is nobody resists change. They resist the loss. So usually change management starts with identifying the need, diagnosing the problem, making a plan, you communicate it, you implement it, you measure it, and then you celebrate it. Yay, it's done. That's a very logical, clean, linear approach to change management. It makes sense on paper. And most importantly, it begins and it ends. What's missing, though, is that every change asks someone to give something up, a role, a way of working, a mission that they were attached to. So when people resist the change, very inevitably, it's not just obstinance, it's usually grief about some loss. So if we reframe this, resistance isn't the enemy of change, it's information about what people care about and what they fear losing. So what do we actually do with that? Name the loss out loud as you name the change. And as the leader, don't pretend like you don't see things or feel things, that you're above it. You're not. And your staff certainly isn't. So don't do that. Instead, model your own ambivalence. Model how it was hard for you, how you moved through it, and how you're hoping that this change will lead to a better future outcomes for everyone involved, right? Be honest, be open. The second key thing, the problem you think you have is rarely the problem you actually have. Change management is awesome. I love change management because it likes a huge diagnosis phase, and I love a diagnosis phase. You do needs assessments, you listen, you survey folks, you do strategic planning retreats, you gather all this data to understand the gap between where you are and where you want to go. That's not really the hardest part of it. I promise you. I've gone to school for this. I've seen it happen. I've seen people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. That's not the hard part. Making the nice shiny plan is quite easy. What I've seen, though, is that this stage often goes too fast. That's what goes wrong. The surface level diagnosis creates a surface level fix. And so it's like shaving off hair rather than plucking it from the root, right? The hair tends to grow back the next day. And so if you have gone through a restructure, you've hired new leadership, you've launched a new model, and 18 months later, you're in the same conversation, you're having the same kind of pattern show up, the hair grew back. And sometimes it grew back stronger and thicker. So let's stop shaving from the top. Let's get to something deeper, right? Because really the presenting problem is usually protecting a deeper problem. And the question you got to get into is, what are we protecting and why are we protecting it? So what to look for instead is, what are the unspoken power dynamics at the table? What is the collective fear that saying the real thing will break something or cause some kind of backlash on the person, so it's not being said? And what's the topic that keeps getting joked away, redirected in meetings, left off the agenda, or at the bottom of the agenda and never gets addressed. That's the thing you need to move forward is, right? That's the unconscious work that we would talk about in psychoanalysis. That's where the meat is. And to address it, just get curious. Ask, has a version of this problem shown up before? If yes, then we're dealing with a pattern. And if we're dealing with a pattern, patterns don't go away overnight, even when they're seen. So we need patience. We need to come up with a shorthand for what happens when we identify the problem or the pattern showing up in different ways as we try to do this change process, right? We need to be able to be patient to a level where we see the pattern, we hand it a juice box and a snack, we ask it to sit in the corner, watch its favorite cartoon, while we, the adults, go to the kitchen and make the meal, right? It's okay. It's going to be there, but let's not let that derail it. So the problem an organization thinks it has is almost never the problem it actually has. And finally, the third key thing, change is not an event. It's an ongoing relationship with the unknown. Again, the standard view, most change models end with embed and sustain. If they're good ones, they end with embed and sustain and evaluate, right? So that we can constantly learn and improve. But the implicit assumption is there's an other side to get to, that the work is done. And I think if we've learned anything from the world of work since 2020 is that things have fundamentally changed. Paradigms have shifted, and they're going to continue to change. And they're going to do so without clarity about what 1, 2, 3 things are actually driving the change, right? We have our suspicions. It's AI, it's unchecked greed, it's a batshit crazy administration, all of the above. But it's weird out there, and we're still living through the weirdness of it. So the real skill is not managing change as a project, but building your capacity to live inside uncertainty and lead from within it, to regulate your nervous system and to model for others how you do that. And how do we do that, right? I would say start simple. Build routines and rituals that create some kind of groundedness on your team. And when everything is crazy outside or outside your department, you have a way of grounding your team, right? Even if it's just a consistent team check-in format where you have a shared language of naming stress, a moment of reflection before you guys go into action and getting to the meat of the agenda. Something that kind of placeholders where when people need to go there and vent or speak or express something, they know where to go and what's the space and the way to do that. So as a leader, you also need to model how you sit with ambiguity. What do you do when you don't know? How do you reward curiosity over false certainty? How do you celebrate the, I don't know, let's find out, instead of always having an answer ready? So the goal of change management isn't to make uncertainty go away. It won't. It's to build your capacity to live inside of it. Just to recap, change management as its best is not a checklist. It's an active care for the people who are going through the change. The frameworks matter. There are plenty out there, but the humans underneath the frameworks matter more. And if you're looking at the bottom line, think about it this way. You will derail your expensive plan if you don't attend to the humans in it. So that's my real answer. Like this if you resonated, comment what I missed, and subscribe if you want more videos like this.